Welcome to number 2, my second podcast. Let that car go past. I did my first one a few weeks ago, and the intention was to keep it up, do it regular. But I listen to a lot of podcasts and watch YouTubers and TikTok, van lifers, photographers, philosophers, all kinds. I'll just let them cars pass, because I'm going to come back to them cars passing in a moment. So anyway, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning now. I've been up since 4, got up to watch the sunrise. Absolutely beautiful. I thought, right, just going to sit here, watch the sunrise, meditate, and just take it all in, because it's beautiful. I'm on the Norfolk coast, parked up on a roadside, a couple of other vans here, but that's it, and some passing traffic. It's been a very peaceful night. 1 or 2 vehicles went past, but that's fine. So I thought I'll do my second podcast today. But I wanted to do something a little bit more different. So I thought I'd kind of share my thoughts on this one. Like, what's going through my mind as I'm sitting here in this beautiful location, 6 o'clock in the morning, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, the tide's rolling in, a handful of seagulls out there, a couple of people walking dogs, a few cars driving past, but it's just beautiful and it's perfect. But it's interesting on how easy it is to get distracted. Now, I've read lots of philosophy, studied different religions, particularly Buddhism, learned to meditate from watching YouTube, but also from monks and nuns that I lived with in the Buddhist centre. So I've got my own kind of meditation practice and mindful practice too. I think one of my earliest influences was Jon Kabat-Zinn on mindfulness. And I'm leaving pauses for a reason, which we'll come back to. Because if you're aware, you'll understand when I come back to it, but if you're not, it might be a bit of an eye-opener for you, as it was for me when I first came across it. But we get distracted very, very easily, and I think part of that, it's just our natural instinct. It's a protection method. Now I'm sitting here and it really is blissful. I mean, everywhere's blissful until our mind kicks in. Morning seagull, love the seagulls. So we've got the seagulls going off, we've got the tide coming in. And you could say, well, that's perfect. Unless you don't like seagulls. You'd be thinking, if only them seagulls weren't there, that'd be perfect. And then there's other people that maybe just don't like the sound of the sea. And that's fine. Maybe they'd sooner have city sounds, or a babbling brook, or dolphin music, or heavy metal, or radio, or the news. People find comfort and peace in different places. But I do find that interesting, how we're all different like that. But one I wanted to talk about was the way I see it as working. And I'm talking slow and quiet, again for another reason, which I'll come back to. So you go to work, or you have a busy day, and you come home, and you sit down, you put your feet up, and relax your body. Well, that's great, because your body's been working hard. You've done a lot of walking, you've done a lot of working, you may be moving, lifting things, shopping, whatever it is. Your body's been busy, and it's time to give it a rest. So you switch your body off. Apart from your internal organs, they run on your subconscious mind, aren't they? We have no control over that. But your physical movements we do. And we feel like there comes a point when we've done our busyness that we can sit down and rest the body. And that feels good. But how often do you rest your mind? How often do you rest your mind? How often do you switch off? I do it quite regularly, most days. And many more people are catching on to this as well. I was going to say trend, but it's not a trend. It's been going on forever. So your mind gets distracted, almost for a self-defense mechanism. Why can't your mind just sit and relax and take in the environment and enjoy the nothingness? It's got to be doing something. It can't just be. Well, it can, but it takes a bit of getting used to. But when you can get your mind to that place, it's a beautiful thing. But as we grow and we learn and we activate our senses and take on new experiences and different things happen in life, all this builds up into your memory. Kind of like a hard drive in a computer, I suppose. You get a new computer, you've just got your basic operating system on it, and then you decide what programs you want on it. Some of them programs you'll use every day, some of them once a week, some of them you'll delete them after 6 months because you realise it was no good anyway. I think thoughts are very much like that. And the way we think, the way we operate. So the mind is an interesting but free flowing tool that we have, but you've got to know how to control it, because if you don't, it just needs things to do. And if it's got nothing to do, it looks for something to do. Now, like I mentioned before, when the cars went past, when it was nice and quiet, and we just had the sound of the sea and the occasional seagull, when the car went past, That was something different, that was something new to your sense, just the sense of hearing, because there was no visual involved, because you're just listening to this. But you get distracted by things out of the norm. So the norm at the moment is just the sea, but when the car goes past, you pick up on that and you hear the car. Now some people listening to this, perfect, you would have just heard that dog. Now your mind, that's good timing that. It's two dogs on the beach chasing each other, running around, after the seagulls, after the ball. A couple of people coming walking along chatting. So that's a perfect example, because here we are listening to natural nature sound of the waves coming in. And these other things in the background are additional to that. Now we could look at it as a distraction, as it's a spoiling of the scene. Morning! It's a spoiling of the scene. As a couple of people have just walked past and looked up. I was going to edit that bit out, but I'll leave it in. Because again, it shows how we can get distracted by things. Now I could have ignored those people and just kept on enjoying it, but it is what it is, and that's fine. And some people listening to this now, you may be thinking, oh, I should have edited it out, she's spoiling it. And the cars, edit them out, go and do it somewhere quiet. But it's interesting to see how your mind follows those cars and follows those dogs. You didn't switch this on to listen to dogs barking, to passing traffic and saying good morning to random people. You probably don't know why you listened to this, but when you did, maybe because of the title of it, you had expectations in your mind, and it started off fine. But then when the distractions came in, some people would have thought, oh, that car, that's a bit of a distraction. And then dogs barking and seagulls. That's in addition to the content, because you listened to this to hear me talk and what I've got to say, and those things are additional. So it's funny when we look at how our mind responds and reacts to those and the thoughts it generates, because it does just generate thoughts. It's like a thought machine. Events happen and it reacts and it responds, gets distracted from what it's here for. Now you decided to listen to me talk, and now we're finding so many minutes in that your mind's being distracted. Now maybe you're aware of that, maybe you're not. If it's the first time you're hearing this, it's quite interesting, because it may help you think in a different way, or look at your thoughts in a different way, because we don't often sit and listen to our thoughts, observe our thoughts, pay attention to them. They just happen, and that's just the way it is. It's interesting to see how the mind does get distracted by things, and how we do go down those rabbit holes of different thoughts and ideas. And that's where a lot of people's problems come from. It's the thoughts, the response to things, sounds, visuals. You see something and it triggers a memory. You hear something, smell something, feel something and it triggers a memory. Good or bad, it doesn't really matter, but it triggers something. Well, that's a good thing. Maybe you see the sunrise and it reminds you of a holiday or the last time you saw the sunrise. And that's beautiful. But if that visual of watching the sunrise somehow reminds you of that person that you fell out with, the argument that you've had, then that can take you down a very, very different rabbit hole. And that's where depression and anxiety come in. It'd be quite easy to get depressed if that sunrise brings back memories of an argument or a sad time or a time of stress or something in your life. But that thing's happened, it's gone, it's in the past. You cannot change it, you cannot do anything about it. But what you can do is control your response to it. And normally we don't control the response to it, it just happens and we go down it. And we just go down that rabbit hole. Because we're not aware that we can change it, we can change our response. No matter what that event, that situation, that external thing is that triggers it, all it's doing is triggering something that's not real. It's just a thought, it's not an actual physical thing that's going to slap you on the face. Although it will slap you on the face, it'll bite your ass mentally. It'll send you down the rabbit hole of depression if you let it. Now that might sound easier said than done, but the more you practice that, letting them thoughts go, the easier it becomes. Like the cars. Again, the reason I've left the cars in is to make that similarity between your thoughts. Your mind is this peaceful scene. Your mind is this blue sky, this beach, this tide coming in. It's just happening. It's just natural. It's peaceful. It's blissful. But then when the car comes along, it's like a thought coming into your mind. You're here on this perfect day, and all of a sudden, this random thought comes in, just like the car comes in, and here comes another one, perfect timing. So here's your thought coming in. It's coming along now. It's getting closer. You know it's there. You start thinking about something. So you could now carry on chewing on it and let it take you into depression, or as it's faded off into the distance, and let it disappear. That's interesting. That car seemed to drive away a bit more quicker. And off he goes into the distance. So you can let those thoughts that are not helpful to you do exactly the same. Don't let them spoil your clear mind. Your mind is that clear sky in its natural state. It's still, it's calm, it's neutral. It's the thoughts that disrupt it. You don't have to let those thoughts disrupt it. And the more you pay attention to your thoughts, the more you can choose whether to allow it to take your attention, to take you down that rabbit hole, or not. Now, if it's a good thought, that's very different. But it's all about your choice. You could be sitting listening to this sea coming in, and it just takes you to that happy, peaceful place. It may remind you of the time when you was on holiday with the kids. You took the kids to the beach for the first time. Now, as I'm saying that, the thought that came to my mind was in the sea I think it was in Tenerife, and my son was I think he might have been about 3 at the time, splashing and playing. I absolutely loved it, and I was throwing him up, as you do, and catching him and splashing him in the water. Now that thought spontaneously appeared in my mind when I started to describe the scene. And that's a good thought, that's a happy thought. So you could dwell on that. I could choose to dwell on that and think more happy memories, more happy thoughts along those lines. The seagulls. Now the seagulls remind me of why I like seagulls. And ever since being a kid and going on seaside holidays, I've loved the sound of seagulls. So every time I hear seagulls, they trigger that memory for me, which is great. And that's my choice. It's my choice of whether to allow that thought to grow and develop and trigger emotions or not. Good emotions or bad emotions. It's my choice. It's going to happen. It's going to trigger something. But it's whether you allow that to grow or not that's the difference. Now I left that little bit of silence there because it'd be interesting from your point to see what thoughts then came into your mind. Was the disruptive thoughts? Was it a thought, has he stopped talking now? Is this the end? Can I go and put the kettle on? I think he's finished now. Is he going to say anything else? Is that it? He didn't even say he'd finished it. And then when I started talking again, that would have triggered more thoughts. But what I'm saying is we've got the choice of what we do with those thoughts. Thoughts will come, just like this car, disrupting the sound of the waves. Are we going to bother with it? Nah, that's not going to spoil my time here at the beach, the sound of the sea, because it's gone. So let your thoughts do the same. Pay attention to them. If they're no good, let them go. Just like the cars driving by. And if they're good, play with them, explore them, let them grow. It's up to you. It's your choice. Nobody else's. And there goes another one. Off you go. Not disrupting my day, not disrupting my thoughts, but the perfect example of how thoughts come and go into our mind. They come from nowhere and they go back into nowhere. Just like all the cars and people and dogs and seagulls from before. They've all gone now. No lasting effect. They just come and they just go. And they'll do that for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of my life. Those thoughts will just come and go. Same as yours. They'll just come and go. It's up to you what you do with them. And the peaceful mind returns. I hope you've enjoyed this little chat, a little insight. I thought it'd be something a little bit different to talk about on the podcast. Share my thoughts, my ideas, a bit of my experience from my own mindfulness and meditation practices. Hope you found it helpful. I'm not sure where you're going to be listening to this on. Are you listening to it on YouTube, Spotify? I don't know. My website? I don't know. But let me know. Give me a comment wherever you can. If you've got an option to like it, or thumbs up, subscribe. Yeah, do all that. That'd be cool. And I'll share some more thoughts with you next time. Have a great day.